Hey everybody, welcome back to Trey's Models. On this video we're going to be doing the 1/12 scale Hasegawa GSXR 750, but we're going to be doing some modifications to transition it into a 1986 replica of a full scale that my friend owns. So this is going to get kind of long. Grab a cold one, get comfy, and hang on for the ride. Now we're starting off with the basic build. Starts off with the engine. It's pretty straightforward. Everything goes together really well. There was no fit issues here. Then we get the basic body parts laid out and start getting a game plan together, because there's going to be some modifications that need to be done later to make it the replica. One of the first big modifications for this one is putting a dry clutch on it. That was one of the things that was modified on the full scale bike. This is actually molded like it could possibly have a limited edition version come out later. Underneath the stock, what would have been the wet clutch cover, there is actually molded in the dry clutch cover plates. So we're going to modify the parts that we have and make it work with what's there, where the pin attachment points go to the cover plate, and you'll see the 3 plastic posts I put in for that. Next up, we're going to make the actual support for the lever arm that actually actuates the clutch, using again the stock cover plate for the wet clutch. We'll cut that into 3 pieces. Once that's done, I'm going to need to scratch build the actual lever for it and the ball end that goes to the actuator cable. And all that was done with some stretch sprue and a stretched plastic cotton swab tube. Stretched that out, cut it to size, painted it with a mix of Testors enamel gold with a little Testors number 11 silver and a little black to give it that, I don't know, black for a better word, almost like an off bronze color that they're cast in. But with all that said and done and it painted up, it looks pretty convincing. Like I said, it looks like they're going to opt for maybe a limited edition with it, because the limited edition did come with the dry clutch, but this particular motorcycle was not a limited. It was later modified. One of the other modifications was getting rid of the stock airbox. I think that was one of the first things that got thrown out when people bought this bike. But the stock airbox gone. I had to find some velocity stacks, so I found some from R&B Custom and ordered those. They're actually spun aluminum. They look really good. Fit perfect, right where the airbox would have been. Didn't have to make any modifications at all. I used some flexible CA from Starbond to attach velocity stacks. Then glued the frame halves together and painted those with the extreme metal aluminum, and then fitted the engine assembly into the frame. Next modification we had to perform was on the front forks. This bike has some 88 GSXR front forks on it, so the dampening actuators at the bottom of the fork legs had to be removed. Everything smoothed out, sanded down, and then painted with some extreme metal aluminum. Also got the brake disc painted up with the same color, and the head pipe, getting ready to get that put into place as well. Next up was modifying the calipers. The front calipers on the 88 front forks were Nissan, and the fitting for the brake line had to be moved to the middle of the caliper, unlike the original, which was on the very end of the caliper. So using a razor saw, I just sawed off the fitting, drilled out a new hole, and then reinstalled the fitting in the right place and painted it. But the next mod was probably the most difficult and challenging one of all. The bike that we're replicating has a set of 3-spoke Marvick rims, and obviously these didn't come in the kit, so we had to find a way to make them. So I got a donor kit in the form of a Maisto 1/12 scale Suzuki that had the 3-spoke rims that looked the part. Had to cut the hubs out and basically do a hub swap. We got the hubs cut out, glued them back into the center of the donor hubs, and CA glued them with some Starbond flexible CA. File sanded that with a round file, cleaned it up, got it primed, shot them white. The next step was test fitting the brake disc. Once that was accomplished, I had to scuff the tires in. I used a piece of 80 grit sandpaper to do the scuffing on that. Got the rubber spooned onto the rims, and I think it came out pretty good. With the rims sorted, now it was up to test fitting them, making sure that everything lined up and could properly fit in. And one of the main concerns was, since it is an actual wider rim, was getting the rear drive sprocket to line up with the front drive sprocket. And we did that using a little bit of a spacer on one side to get it to shift over where it needed to be, and trimming off a little bit on the other side. So basically offset it just a hair. It's not noticeable from the back. It was that slight. Lucked out there. Got that fitted up, tested the front. That lined up really well, and as well, we did have to trim a little bit off of both sides to get it to fit up in between the fork legs. We test fitted the fork legs in place, got everything lined, test fitted that together, and basically at that point had a rolling chassis. Moving on to some of the fiddly bits, the flight controls. We have to get the brake lines run, made those out of twisted wire. Also, because this has a dry clutch, there's not going to be a clutch reservoir, so that had to be removed from the triple clamp. Had to get in the spares drawer, get out a better brake reservoir for the right side of the triple clamp, and get that fitted. The one that came with the kit was too small, didn't look the part, obviously because it has a different front end on it from the stock one. So required that to be modified as well. That was all fitted up, and the lines up underneath, I had to make some adjustments there for an attachment point, because the stock plastic pins that come on the kit just weren't going to function correctly. So I had to get a micro bit out, re-drill that, put an attachment point in it made out of a piece of guitar string, and then I could fit all the lines, run all the plumbing for the front end. So the front chain guard got drilled out, and then I moved on to the instrument cluster. The far right gauge on the cluster had to be removed to make this replicate the one we're working. And after I got that sanded smooth and painted, moved on to the headlight buckets and coated the inside reflective area with some floor polish. Bring up the shine on that. The next up was getting the bodywork sorted out. We did have to do a couple of modifications. Did paint everything black on the inside first. The tank halves went together. There was no seam line. The bottom of the tank fits in. You can't see it from underneath. So unlike some other tanks you do have to deal with on some kits, there is a seam line there to deal with. One of the things we did do on the race versions, a lot of the guys would modify the upper fairing and cut the inner fairing extensions that run from the top lip of the upper fairing over to the frame. It blocks the airflow. In traffic, if on a street version, it would keep the hot air from coming up on the rider as much, but on a race version, you want the flow, cut that out of there. You're not sitting in traffic, you're not worried about that hot air. So you can see the areas that were hashed out, marked, cut, removed, sanded, cleaned up. That got fitted in. One of the things that I found out, in the picture you can see the headlight bucket mounted up already with the lights attached. That presented a fit problem later on when I went to put all the bodywork on for the test fit. It was almost impossible to get the tabs on the headlight buckets to match up to the inner fairing and have everything in place where it needed to be. So I wound up cutting the buckets off, gluing them into the back of the fairing so the headlights were already flush into the fairing, and then mounting that back up to attach to all the hard points where everything went together. After that, the test fit of the body was really smooth. It went together really well. Well, on to the painting. After everything was prepped and cleaned and primed with some 1500 Mr. Surfacer, wet sanded everything down with 1000, then stepped that down to 1200. After that setup, I painted everything red. Usually I would have painted it white first, but because of the way this thing has to be taped off, I based it with red, and then using 1mm and 2mm tape came back and painted the other two colors. Now after I painted it red, I did wet sand it with 2000 grit, cleaned that up, then masked for the next color, applied that color, another coat of Tester's gloss coat after that had been dried, and then onto the final coat using the same process. After all that was top coated, it did get a final top coat of 2K urethane clear, which was then wet sanded down, starting out with 1000 grit, stepped it down to 1500 grit, and then finally with 3000 grit, and then came back and hand polished it. But one of the last mods was doing the exhaust system. The stock pipe was used as a base. It was cut up into segments. The backside was epoxy with some Tamiya putty. Everything was wet sanded down, primered, wet sanded again down to 1000 grit, primed again and wet sanded down to 2000 grit, and then it got a coat of extreme metal aluminum. After that, the decal was applied, clear coated, and then attached to the head pipe. I used a cut piece of stirring straw to hold the two pipe ends in place, and then use some Star Bond flexible CA to bond everything together. And then on to the long, arduous task of hand polishing the entire painted surfaces, making sure not to get any on the flatbread seats, because that would be real hard to get off without messing it up. And more polishing, and more polishing, and more buffing. After the polishing was complete, I had to come back and add the fairing fasteners. Now, the way I had to make these was using a piece of line foil with a drill bit, and you place the foil over a hard rubber mat. It has to be a little bit flexible. A sanding squeegee made by 3M works. You can get those at an automotive body shop supply. Probably find them online, even easier. But depending on how big you want the fasteners as to how big you want the drill bit, put the drill bit in your pin vise with the sharp end into the pin vise, leaving a nice squared off back end to push through the foil into the hard rubber mat, and it'll pop out a nice tight round fastener screw head. You can vary the size by varying the drill bit. It's pretty simple. One thing you want to watch for, if you want the natural metal finish of the foil, when you push it through there, it's going to lift the foil up. So if you push it through there with the black color of the foil facing the mat, you're going to have a black screw head. If you want a metal screw head, just flip it around the other way and repeat the process as many times as you need to get your fasteners. After that, I glued the fasteners onto the surface using some canopy glue and a toothpick. Ready?
Oh, don't do that.
Don't do that. Don't touch it, man. Shit, come on.
He's blowing on it.
He's blowing on it. Don't touch it, man.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Trey's Models. We're here at Scott's World of Wheels delivering the GSXR 750.
And it is sweet.
So Scott, tell us a little bit about when you got the bike.
Bought it brand new in '86. It was the red and black, the fast ones back in the day. The blue and whites weren't quite as fast, but the red and blacks were. And raced it from '86 through about '91. Went with this paint job after I crashed it the first time in the mountains on a street ride. And so anyway, we went with this paint job. Crashed it the first race at Roebling Road in Faultville, Georgia, Savannah, at Roebling Road Raceway, and in the rain. Right after the first paint job was done. This is the second paint job Trey's done on it for me because I've crashed it since then. So anyway, got a zipper on it, and easy to fix, easy to work on, but absolutely love this bike. One of the only ones that kept it throughout the years. The old race bike. Buddy, got Kyle Spradlin here, a couple of my buddies that we used to race with, and they all sold theirs, but I decided to hang on to it. So anyway, and Ryan thinks he's going to end up with it, but hey, we shall see.
Yeah,
We shall
only
see.
time will tell. Only time will tell. Kyle Brown's over here saying that. I'm next in line.
Don't have the carburetors on it right now. They're 36 flat slides, center front Makunis, and whatever. Have them off of it right now, just storing it. And but the motor's got quite a bit done to it. And as such, Marvin wheels, 88 front end, or whatever. So anyway, Trey made the model to match it, and it is perfect. It's spot on. Absolutely fantastic.
Now Ryan, when this came out, what size rear rims and front rims did it have on it?
18-inch wheels on this thing, man. Those are pizza cutter tires, you know, to today's standards. But when these guys got into the racing part of it, these actually wheels are pretty cool because these are 3-spoke Marvics. These actually came off Donald Jacks's GSXR 750 from '88, '89. So these are really unique wheels. We still have them in the family, so it's really cool. This bike's got a lot of little unique stuff. We got a Fox race shock on it, like you said, 36 flat side carbs. You got a dry clutch setup, which was really neat for these, 88 front end, and just a lot of little trick bits that you just don't see a lot no more.
And Kyle Spradlin can tell you just everything on the motor that we had done to it.
As far as I remember, that one,
Yeah.
head ported, oversized intake valves, Cosworth pistons, Carilla rods, quite a bit of stuff done. Very good motor.
Yeah, higher compression, milled the heads and the cylinders.
Yeah, this bike's been all over the
Had to redo it
US,
later.
so. Now it was this is a Team ADC was back in the day of Pocket Death Cruisers, one of the original Pocket Death Cruiser bikes back in the day. So it gets a lot of attention over the years. But yeah, they're what, 36 years and going now.
Mm-hmm.
So this bike's actually 7 months older than me. So yeah, it's a family trade for sure. But I'm happy we still have it in the family.
Well, I was very honored to do this for you guys. So
Oh man, we
man,
absolutely, and it's
You killed the paint job. It was
perfect.
awesome,
It's
man.
killed.
You did a really good job.
beautiful.
Every little detail is perfect, and yeah.
Pictures
Well,
don't
these-
do it justice.
these are
Yeah.
the two legends right here, the Rawls.
Appreciate it, man. No, we appreciate everything you guys do.
Yeah.
And, no, man, we've always been we've been talking to you for years about getting a model in here, and we really appreciate the model, man. Seriously, you did a stellar job on it,
Yeah.
Trey.
It was
As
my
always.
honor. It was
Trey's
my
models on YouTube. Check it out. Seriously.
And
It's great.
Ryan's Road Race Lounge, don't forget that.
RoadRaceLounge.com, yeah.
And we're at Scott's World of Wheels.
Scott's
Always.
World of Wheels. Here's
Yep, we got some history here.
here's some of the pictures from back in the day. Why don't you guys walk us through here?
Shoot, okay, let's go through this real quick. Well, we got everything. We got John Wahlberg's over here this weekend, man. We got him. We got a picture from Moroso Motorsports Park. We got Ronnie Price, Stephen Rawls, Bobby Carraway, Scott's World of Wheels with all his pride and joy. That's me and my brother, Zach, from '97 when they got the bike rebuilt one time. West Palm again right there when the other boys ended up going out novice. Just a lot of great family photos here. We got some legendary Donald Jack stuff up there. We got Scott Rawls here in '86 going fast on the GSXR 750, and then we're taking it a little more easy here when he's about, let's see, well, I would say about like 53, 54 on the Aprilia. Still getting it. And then this was a really unique shot right here. This was Thaddeus Lewandowski's first ever amateur win. And Dad Ronnie and Kevin Owen over there, chicken heads hanging out. So we just got a lot of cool photos like there. Dad's 50th birthday. So yeah, this bike's been around for a long, long time. Yeah, Team ADC.
Team ADC.
Crew. Yep, it was very
So,
cool. So yeah, we got.
We're
the
here
whole
in the
crew,
shop
man.
with the
Yeah.
crew.
Appreciate it, man. Seriously.
Thank you guys for tuning in.
Yes, sir.
Model on. Well, thanks for watching. Please hit that like button and subscribe, and I hope y'all enjoyed the video. Y'all be good to each other, and we'll see you on the next one.